I just want to talk a little bit before we get into some feedback about what I posted this morning. I had kind of a fun time because I would normally write something and then rearrange it to be better, and then post it. But I didn't really edit it, and I could tell it was kind of meandering. But I asked if you haven't seen it at some point, try to go see it. I asked Claude AI to analyze it, and it analyzed it, and it was nice. It told me some real nice things, um and said, "Do you want me to incorporate this stuff?" And I said, "Do your worst." I meant yes, but what it thought I meant was be mean to me. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, since you asked, so I don't know. I had to include that in the post, but it actually was very good. It was like really good feedback. And then so I was like, well, why don't you go ahead and rewrite it? And so it rewrote it. And if I was really trying to use that for something, I might say, we'll put it in my voice though, because I thought it kind of got a little mechanical at that point. But I just have a blast with that stuff. So I hope that you do too and can learn how to use it, because I think the people that can use that stuff will not be replaced by it. They'll be able to. I've noticed when people use it, if they're a good writer, then it works really well. If they're not a good writer, it doesn't work very well. So it's not really going to replace bad writing, at least from what I can tell so far. You still have to be a pretty good writer to make the best use of AI in writing. Um, but what I actually wanted to talk about was what had originally written about, which was this quote. Started from this thinking about this quote in Rick Rubin's book, and I've mentioned this before. Do you guys know who that is? He's a music producer, and he's produced anywhere from the Beastie Boys to Johnny Cash to you name it. And he's just kind of known for being creative. He has a really, really great podcast, and he might have creatives on, but he might also have scientists. I mean, he's just kind of a curious, interesting person. He's just crazy looking. His hair is like about that long, and his beard is about that long, and his mustache is about that long, and he doesn't seem to have cut it or combed it in in the last 25 years. He has a really good book. It's called create it's about create being creative, the act of creation and being or something like that. We can look it up. But but um but he was just talking about self-expression. And when you create art that you allow become self-expression, then you'll create something in which the reader can experience self-expression in the way that they read. And he was making the point, we don't create art to tell them what to think. That's not really up to you. And I thought that was so good and right. And at the same time, I really struggled with it because we're writing nonfiction and sort of transformational books that are supposed to be spiritually self-helpy. And I hate to use the word self-help because it's not quite the right word. Um, but we are all writing because we feel God has called us to teach something and to give people a way to change according to what it is that we are teaching. So I got what he was saying when it came to creating a novel or a painting. Um, and I don't know if I usually think about writing these kinds of books as making art. But I actually think that it'd be good to think of it that way, because writing is an art no matter what you're writing. I mean, even if you're writing ad copy, even if you're writing even technical writing, wouldn't you want to get in flow and feel like you pulled something out of yourself that's better than you're able ordinarily to make? Is there a way in which everything that I mean, if these, I'm gonna say one more thing and then I actually want to have a discussion. But if these books that we're creating are to be considered art, then I actually need to consider everything that I do potentially as art. I mean, you know how like when you're talking about something with somebody, they might say, well, that's more of an art than science. Usually they're talking about, if it's a science, it's a step, 1, 2, 3, 4 step process. You just need the instructions and you can do it and it's done. But if it's more nuanced than that, we'll start calling it an art. So that I said that I was going to say one more thing. I'm going to say now one more thing, and then we'll talk about it. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is why my article got meandering like I'm doing right now, is self-expression. We Christians don't know what to think about that. And I would submit to you that you can't and you shouldn't get away from it just because you're trying to be humble, because you are yourself. God made you. And if you're not expressing yourself, then you're expressing some false self. It reminds me of, I've heard you've heard me talk about Seth Godin talk about authenticity and how he says you shouldn't be authentic. No one's paying you to be authentic. They want you to show up and be your best self. And I'm like, well, you're talking about authenticity still. You're just talking about your best authentic self. It doesn't mean that we should go and try to act like somebody we're not. And his point is, if you're having a bad day, then you still owe it to your audience to give your best performance. If that's what you're being paid to do, or if that's what they're showing up for. He's talking about like maybe somebody playing a concert. You don't really want that person to show up and say, yeah, I'm really not doing so great. I'm going to phone it in today. And you paid for tickets. So